No, there's the filthy capitalist option, as Sori says. 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at sori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in a Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village, facebook.com/VinandSori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch indeed, and shall lead them.
To buy our merch.
Yes, dear listener, yes, dear listener,
Link
yes,
is in the
dear
description if you're interested.
This is a rare occasion for Vin and Sori. The new song came out. It's a Slipknot song. The only copy of it that we have is the official video, so I'm trying to do it as soon as possible.
Perhaps we won't get blocked.
Perhaps, inshallah, we will not get blocked. Although, there's a lyric video right here. I wonder if we should use that one.
Yes, we should. I can play the official on the side over here.
It only came out 3 hours ago.
You're going to do it.
I'm going to play the official
You're
one.
gonna
We're
do
going to
it.
play
I
the
knew
official
it. I
one.
could
Hopefully
tell.
it doesn't get blocked. If it does get blocked, that's okay. We'll just do it the other way. Here we go. Slipknot, the dying song. World premiere. Let's do it. Whoa. Not expecting this.
Put your hands into the water, let your mouth go sick and dry. Put your life into your death now, let them sing till you die. Die, 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 You let it go, rather than rhetorical, babble-looking lyrical. Why am I always in your debt? Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost, communist, comatose. Show me all the ways that are bad. The middle of a nuclear winter is a modern achievement of the retro-apocalyptic horde. Satan, you must be mistaken. There are no more Satans, only the bosses of the board. Forget, deny, ignore, nice try, it's you. Regret, rely, remorse inside of you.
hopefully it didn't get blocked. Damn. That's so right off the gate, if you look at this band, they've lost some pretty significant people. They lost their bassist, rest in peace to Joey. They lost Joey recently, unfortunately. So they've had a lot of losses. And the other thing too is I read in an interview something about like the final something or other.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like the track list. The track list is it's got 12 songs, and the final one is Finale. And then the bassist Sean, who's one of the leaders of the band, said like something close to like "This Is It" or something. So I don't know if this is like like the last album they're gonna do, like a swan song type of situation. Obviously, as Slipknot fans, I hope not. But I mean, at some point, it's got to end some point. But anyway, so I'm gonna put the lyrics up here. I think we're basically good as far as
we're not blocked.
We're not blocked yet, inshallah. So we'll be able to put this up for you, beautiful people. Here's the first parts of the lyrics. Put your hands into the water, let your mouth go sick and dry. Put your life into your death now, let them sing until you die. Radical rather than rhetorical, babble like an oracle. Why am I always in your debt? Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost, communist comatose. Show me all the wagers are a bet. The middle of a nuclear winter is a modern achievement of the retro-apocalyptic horde. Satan, you must be mistaken. There are no more Satans, only bosses on the board. Forget, deny, ignore. Nice try, it's you. Regret, rely, remorse inside of you. Maybe you've been down too long. The heart begins to suffer when the soul is given up. Woo!
Yep.
And the flesh is barely more than bone. When no one else is listening, only when you've had enough time to sing this dying song alone. Okay, so he said a lot of shit in that stanza. What was your take when you were listening to it? Obviously, Corey always finds a way to get his vocal talent in there on the choruses. What was going on with you when you were hearing
Well, I mean, it was heavy, and I haven't heard like a ton of Slipknot songs. It didn't seem like it fit into the usual Slipknot category that how I categorize them in my head.
Okay.
And I was watching the video, so I wasn't actually seeing the lyrics until after. I do agree, it does look like he's saying an awful lot about, in this song. I'm curious to hear your breakdown of the lyrics. For me, like, I didn't necessarily like vibe with the song like I usually vibe with Slipknot songs, and I'm not really sure why that is. I don't know if the lyrical breakdown will actually help with like my connection with it or not. So yeah, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Okay. So this to me is actually more of the traditional Slipknot song that I was brought up in, that I came up in. Especially the drummer really separated himself here. He did a really, really, really good. His name is Jay Weinberg, who obviously had big shoes to fill, replacing Joey Jordison. Put your hands in the water, let your mouth go sick and dry. Put your life into your death now, let them sing until you die. And then it says radical rather than rhetorical, babble like an oracle. So the first thing is if you look at what's going on right now, everybody has talking points. So everybody's like talking this, talking that, like today. And I'm not making any political points about this. I'm just pointing out kind of Exhibit A in my mind about this. AOC and Ilhan Omar at a protest, and the cops are escorting them off the grounds, and they put their hands behind their backs as if they're really arrested because they're trying to act like they're radicals, and they were not arrested. They were not handcuffed. AOC didn't have any handcuffs, neither did Ilhan. But they're making this flowery thing to make it look like that they're being arrested when they're really not. Those two are not going to pay any costs whatsoever. Even if they were arrested, they'd be out before they were booked.
Yeah.
They're not paying any. So it's all rhetoric. They're not really radicals.
Yeah.
They're not radicals radicals who are really about to
It's
like
not
die
like
for
Bernie
the cause.
back in the day.
Yeah, like Bernie was actually getting arrested in the civil rights movements in the 60s. They were really jamming him up, and there was real cost to be paid by Bernie. And there's a lot of, you see this in the black community, you see it in every community where people are talking shit, especially these leaders, but it's all rhetoric. You're not really a radical. So it says radical rather than rhetorical, babble like an oracle. Like, you want to believe that you're like this radical who's really willing to pay the price for anything.
Oh, yeah.
But in
Yeah.
reality, you're really not about that. Like, it's like us. Like, we got in a legal situation. Our crew got in a legal situation with some pretty terrible forces. And, you know, certain people, you know, when it was time, they were not, you know, they got intimidated. And I understand. You're talking about the police. You're going up against the Attorney General. You're looking at criminal charges. You know, how much do you really believe that shit? And you were pretty hard on them. And I'm like, well, what do you expect them to do?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like going to prison and having that on your record is not something that a lot of people, you know, want to deal with.
Well, I was looking at it as, like, you hear about people that were martyred for their faith, or they were in prison, like, for the rest of their lives. So I'm like, that's not what's going to happen in this situation. Like, you're going to get a little slap on the wrist, depending on who you are, and nobody's going to jail for 10 years over this. You know, like, that's the way I was looking at it. I was like, it's not, this is, you know, if you look at our history in Christianity and you see, like, the heavy cost that a lot of them had to pay, I knew we weren't going to pay that kind of a cost. So. Right.
Father and Son and the Holy Ghost, Communist Comatose. Show Me All the Wages Are a Bet. The Middle of a Nuclear Winter's a Modern Achievement of the Retro-Apocalyptic Horde. That, to me, is kind of like all the stuff that happened earlier in the year with this Ukraine-Russia stuff, when we were really, really close to going nuclear on this shit. And everybody, I don't know if everybody remembered, but everybody had a Ukrainian flag and all the rest of it.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, yeah. And when people start getting jacked up on gas prices and all the other shit, all that Ukraine shit is going to go out the window. So now, I just saw a recent poll, Biden, he hurt himself because he recently said, we're going to keep the gas prices as high as they need to be until we see this thing through in Ukraine.
What?
And that was a massively unpopular thing.
Yeah.
The last $40 billion he sent over there, again, massively unpopular.
Of course.
Even news outlets that were saying, yay, Slava Ukraine, even they're like, well, wait a second. Why are we, wait, we're in trouble. We can't even feed kids over here.
Yeah.
What are you doing? So, but we were very, very, very close to, because Putin was saying, he said, look, we don't have the firepower to match NATO. We don't. So if you guys really come after us, we're just going to go nuclear on all of you guys. So it was like, yo, we're stoking this, and I understand, like, there's so much nuance to the Russia-Ukraine situation. I mean, these people are genetically, psychologically, religiously linked. You know, a lot of us were coming into this whole discussion, like, you know, we were just dragged, which is like every American, we're just dragged into this thing, and we're only told, it was very complicated, but the point for me is, you know, nuclear winter is a modern achievement of the retro-apocalyptic horde. Like, when he says retro, that's really important, because that's going backwards. And remember, all throughout the Cold War, we had this thing called a Red Scare.
Yep.
And you know, had kids in schools having to, you know, duck under the desk. They were doing these nuclear drills. Recently, this is weird, New York, there was a YouTube video in New York where they were preparing people for a nuclear, this is what you do, get into a base. Oh yeah, there's this weird video out there where they're preparing New Yorkers for a nuclear attack. So it's a sort of, we're going back to...
You mean kids at school, or like...
No, it was like a public service announcement type of thing. It was a very, very strange, very disconcerting...
That is, for sure, yeah.
Drill that they were talking about. And it's like we haven't progressed. Oh, the Russians are the bad guys. Oh, it's nuclear war again. Here we go. And what he's saying is, Satan, you must be mistaken. There are no more Satans, only the bosses on the board.
Yeah.
Meaning, we want to act like human evil is this sort of like supernatural, there must be some supernatural explanation for, when in reality it's like, no, regular human beings, because of capital and their love of money and power, we can do some really fucking horrific shit.
Yep.
No supernaturalism needed.
Yep.
Now, obviously, we're both Christians. We're supernaturalists. I believe that that there are malevolent consciousnesses that can influence our consciousnesses to do evil in the world, in the physical world, or whatever we think this world is. But they can only influence. The roots of it is inside of us and our own selfishness. That's why that is Satan. Only the boss is on the board. And that speaks to, in my view, our capitalistic sort of instincts toward doing things that are not good for the human family, but are good for us and our country, or oil barons and all the rest of it. There was a lot of oil money here. There was a lot of gas money here. There was a lot of, Germany being, and the European Union essentially having Russia as a conduit for gas and natural gas, and now we're sizing up to take a big chunk of that because of this entire conflict with Russia. And so if people think that the American government, like the folks at the top of the pyramid, if you really think that they were involved in this Russia-Ukraine thing for this moral outrage, you're ridiculous. There is always a financial incentive to everything our government does.
Absolutely.
So that's how I looked at it, and I think he's basically saying, like, the heart begins to suffer when the soul is given up, and the flesh is barely more than the bone. It just looks to me like he's saying, like, after a while, you do hit this point where you just are completely discouraged, and you just give up hope in the idea that the process is going to work. There's a lot of people right now that are really disappointed with Joe Biden, and the reaction from a lot of people who were against Biden and all that is, serves you right, you get what you get. But you have to understand that for 4 years, the vast majority of America was brainwashed with this idea that Donald Trump is going to completely destroy this planet. He's the worst person ever. Nobody's lied like him. Now, granted, in my view, 90% of that was bullshit, but then the January 6th stuff happened. And it scared people.
Yep. Because
it was like, yo, this guy's not trying to release the levers of power. And look,
I
don't care if you're right wing, left. I don't care. Like, he didn't want to release the reins of power, and the bloodless transfer of authority is, in my opinion, one of the most amazing sort of norms that have been established. And he went against that.
He did. He absolutely
and people were scared, so they got terrified into voting for a guy who obviously didn't have their interests at heart. And now, especially a lot of young voters, man, people are just completely discouraged, bro. And like, how can you blame them? So when I see those lyrics there, when he's talking about, like, the soul, the heart begins to suffer when the soul is given up, and the flesh is barely more than bone. When no one is listening, only when you've had enough, time to sing the dying song alone. And so now, like, we're in the situation where all these forces are at work, and it's becoming more and more clear that people really don't have an influence in what's going on in the world, and we don't have an influence in, and the people that we're supposed to, that are voting for us and telling us, hey, we're going to make this better for you, are not making better. They're not making anything better for any of us. And now people are starting to get really disillusioned.
This is literally like the worst, in my opinion, that we've seen, because our own children are suffering as a result. I mean, we don't have formula on the shelves in most places. That to me is insane. Like, that should have been priority, like, number one, before us sending money over to Ukraine and getting busy doing whatever. We should have figured out this problem and gotten the formula to these children. I think that this is just there's one side of me that's like, well, it's kind of bringing us back to our roots. Like, we are way too dependent on the government to help us out, to take care of what we need to take care of. Like, this kind of forced people to try out some different ways of feeding their kids. So I think that was good. But when you look at, that does put people in a whole nother panic point when it's like, okay, what are you doing? Why is this even happening?
Well, no, I agree. But again, if people really understood what's happening with this formula stuff, there are a bunch of foreign formula outlets that we could have patronized and have very high standards for quality and things like that. But the Big Four worked with the FDA to make it damn near impossible for these foreign folks to work in the U.S. because the Big Four didn't want any competition.
Yeah,
it
it's
is
not right.
There's an extremely
It's not right.
high bar of entry for formula products. So when the domestic one went down, we couldn't fall back on the foreign stuff. And yeah, people are coming up with various ways of doing, but I'll tell you, people are suffering, and I am sure deaths have happened. Like, people don't realize, like, regular cow's milk, things like that are not good for newborns.
Nope.
They're just not. And a lot of these moms cannot, that's why we've had wet nurses historically in the ancient world until to this day, because many times the moms can't hack it just themselves. So, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, and obviously the capitalistic inclinations of these formula, manufacturers obviously now are responsible for this. But is anything going to happen? No. Are they going to be held accountable? No. Nobody's even thinking about that. Nobody's even thinking about the correlation between them and the FDA. Nobody cares about that, because when you got a crying baby, man, you don't care about that shit. And that's why he says, forget, deny, ignore. Nice try. It's you. Regret, rely, remorse inside of you. And I think what he's saying there is like, look, we can blame everybody on the planet if we want to. And there's always going to be somebody else to blame. But at some level, we've got to take personal responsibility for the fact that we've got to be informed when we're voting for people. And at some level, we cannot let these people and their duopoly consistently dominate us.
Yeah.
At some point, you have to rise up and say, no, we're not going to do this. But it's easy for people to say that, but people have to mentally get over the fear barrier.
Absolutely.
In 2016, we couldn't vote for Bernie because you have to vote for Hillary because she's the only, she's obviously going to win, blah, blah, blah. And then in 2020, it was like, oh, we couldn't vote for Bernie. There's no way Bernie can win. We have to vote for Trump. And look, I don't care necessarily who you want in office. I'm just saying that, okay, if you're in a democracy and you get to vote and you get to determine who's in there, then at some level you have got to own some of it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you got to own some of it. If you voted for Trump, you can't just say, oh, but if you voted for Biden, you can't just wash your hand. You voted for him. You know what I'm saying? So, look, I don't think there are any simple solutions in this situation at all. But I definitely think that the song is reaching out to that. There was that the synth at the beginning, at the end, were both kind of morose, minor key, sad type situation, which kind of leads me to believe that maybe this might be their final record. I'm not sure, but I hope not. But I mean, at the end of the day, this wasn't gonna last forever, I guess. But I really like the song a lot.
What did you think about that visual, like at the end? Like where she took the mask off and she put it into the water. What did you make of that?
Well, one is there's a big theme with Slipknot and the masks. Two, for me, it's when you say you're taking the mask off, it's like revealing who you really are. And I just think that like it's a last ditch attempt to kind of stand up, because that's what Slipknot stands for. It's like being who you are. Which is kind of contradictory with the fact that they always show up with masks. So it's like being able to take the mask off is kind of saying like being true to yourself while simultaneously, I think it's kind of the end of an era type situation is what it looks like to me.
Their songs, traditionally speaking, are not political, right?
I don't think this was a political song per se. I just think it's hard to, when you're facing things like the gas thing and spending $400 a trip at Walmart and things of that nature, like you can call that politics, but people are people's lives are truly being affected. It's not like some political theory in a class. It's like, holy shit, people are paying $5 something for gas. Holy shit, people are paying, meat is pretty freaking expensive.
Freaking unbelievable.
It is really, really expensive. So, that's what it looks like to me. is that kind of you know. But yeah, I like the song. I love the vocal style. I think Corey is probably the greatest vocalist of our time, probably.
Really?
Yeah, I'm talking about my generation. You know, I'm talking about, you know, the bands that when I got introduced to metal. You know, like obviously, I think I think Tool is a great. I don't consider them metal though.
Yeah, okay, I see.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
see what
I
you're
consider
saying.
Dio metal. I don't consider Tool metal. That's no disrespect to Tool. I think Tool is just so they're just in an incredibly other category. But I think Corey is probably the best vocalist in metal of my time. And not only in his ability to hit clean notes, but also in his ability to go back and forth between the rough stuff and the clean stuff. The song is a 9.4 for me.
Oh wow, okay.
I really, really like it.
It's a 9.1 for me.
Shout out to the big homie Revo. This song isn't necessarily brought to you by Revo, but as we said in the commercial, there's lots of ways to get a song requested if you do have a song to request. We also have a Behemoth song coming up pretty soon here. Stay tuned for that.
Be on the lookout.
Be on the lookout, dear listener. We do, obviously, you know, if we've got a DJ stream and things like that, obviously, you're welcome. Vid and Sori Live. You can go there and you can, let me actually get everybody the Vid and Sori Live link. Because we said we were going to shoot a commercial about the Vid and Sori Live link, and we never did. So
I was cutting up a video and we're like, when we get serious about the channel, we'll do a commercial. Until
Yeah.
then, we're fooling around.
Yeah. So
Apparently.
hey guys, here's the Vid and Sori Live link. If you're so inclined, that's where we do a lot of our live streams. But we had to do this live here with you beautiful people because it is Slipknot.
Yeah, so if you
go.
want to see our live streams in action, you'll have to subscribe to the Vid and Sori Live channel as well, so you can get the notifications. A lot of times they're done in the evening, Eastern Standard Time, 9, 10 o'clock. But sometimes they're as early as 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So
Yeah.
get over there, subscribe, like and subscribe.
Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that jazz.
And we'll catch you on the next video.